Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Claire Burke, and I'm a Senior Career Services here with Employment Boost. And today we're going to be going over how to job search successfully in 2021. I'm just going to give it a moment for everyone to get settled in, so please feel free to get comfortable, and we'll get started with the presentation in just a moment. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. To those of you who have just joined us, welcome. My name is Claire Burke, and today we're going to be going over some tips and best practices for how to make your resume stand out in today's saturated job market. So we'll be going over some strategies that you can employ to make sure that you are doing what you can so that your resume succeeds in both the human and technological components of the job search. But before we get started going into this advice, I'd just like to take a moment to go over a little bit about who we are and what we do. So here at Employment Boost, we are a full-service outplacement, career coaching, and resume writing firm. We're headquartered in Troy, Michigan, right outside of Detroit, and we have offices across major cities in the US, including Chicago, Cleveland, Denver, and New York. Our firm provides both B2B and B2C services, both of which are built on over a decade of industry-leading career services expertise. And we are proud to be recognized as one of the nation's top professional and executive resume writing services, with 5-star ratings across various platforms, including Google, Facebook, Yelp, and SHRM. So feel free to check us out at employmentboost.com if you have any other questions about who we are and the services that we provide in resume writing, career coaching, and outplacement. So as Employment Boost, we are a subsidiary of Heavy Hitter Holdings, and so we have the privilege to work with multiple executive search and recruiting firms across a bunch of different market sectors across the globe. So really being able to work with hiring professionals to ensure that the advice that we're giving you and the services that we're providing to our clients are top of line, and that we're really maintaining that finger on the pulse approach to keeping an eye on the job market. And so this has been an incredible asset in informing the way that we provide our services, and it is a big part of how we are able to give these tools to you. And so on a similar note, our team here is comprised of certified professional resume writers, including myself, career coaches, executive recruiters, and market researchers. So again, by working together with all of these experts, we're really able to ensure that we are providing top-line knowledge into the intricacies of the job search here in 2021. So now that we've gone over who we are and what we do, let's talk about our position for today. There are nearly 11 million individuals in the US currently seeking employment as of November 2020. And with that in mind, it's more important now than ever to start your search with a strategy in place so that you can rise above the noise and stand out in such a saturated market. In order to do so, it's not only crucial that you identify your own needs, goals, and values surrounding your job search, but that you also recognize how those details factor into the various human and technological components that make up the modern job search. By building your resume with its target audience in mind, leveraging the key terms and requirements of each and every term that you're applying to, and building your professional network and brand on platforms like LinkedIn, you'll be able to optimize your chances of success in today's market, and again, make your candidacy shine among all of the other resumes and candidates applying to the positions that you are targeting. So for today, we'll start out by introducing the job search with a needs, wants, and deal breakers activity that I encourage all of you to keep in mind, not just in this section, but throughout the webinar and your resume writing and job search process as a whole. Next, we'll dive into resume building blocks, what a resume is, and some basic best practices. And then we'll dive into the applicant tracking system, kind of lifting the veil and mystique surrounding the ATS, what it does, and how you can make sure that you are formatting your resume in a way that meshes with the applicant tracking system. Then we'll go into key terms, what they are, where to find them, and how to use them on your resume. Finally, we'll talk about networking, establishing your online presence, and some tips and tricks for LinkedIn on how to make sure that not just your profile stands out, but that you're using LinkedIn as a way to increase your odds of getting into the companies that you are targeting. Finally, we'll go over any questions that you may have. We also do have a live chat box here, so throughout this presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to search them in the live chat. I will keep an eye on that throughout this conversation, and I'll be sure to get you an answer. If I don't have one, I'll get you in contact with somebody that does. So that's what we'll be going over today. Again, let me know if you have any questions throughout. And you can also feel free to connect with me and Employment Boost on LinkedIn if you have any other questions that you'd like to discuss after the webinar. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started here with an introduction to the job search. And as I said, doing an activity with needs, wants, and deal breakers as it pertains to your specific search. So before you even begin to write your resume and begin to apply to roles, it's important to take some time to do self-reflection. This is a tool that's going to be incredibly valuable for you in many ways, but identifying your priorities before you even begin the job search can keep you aligned throughout and keep your focus where it should be. So to do so, I encourage you all to think about needs, wants, and deal breakers, and what that looks like for the roles that you are targeting. By taking the time to make these lists, either on paper or in your mind, about what you need in a role, what you want in a role, and what you won't stand for in a role, you can really increase your efficiency when it comes to finding the roles that you will be ultimately applying for. And so when it comes to these things, these needs, wants, and deal breakers, we have some options here that you can keep in mind. Things like location, salary, benefits, growth potential, even the industry and job title. These are all things that you should think about in terms of what you are looking for and what you want to see in your future role. Other aspects like travel requirements, weekly hours worked, work from home flexibility, that's definitely a big one now here in 2021. And then finally, culture and perks. The way that you think about these can inform the way that you actually approach the job search. And I just want to say, needs, wants, and deal breakers are so specific to you. There is no one size fits all list. So your idea of needs, wants, and deal breakers might go far beyond what we have listed here, or there might be some overlap within each section. So I just, again, encourage you all to really take the time to think about what you need, what you want, and what is a deal breaker in your search. And again, this not just aligns your search with your values, but it can also help you minimize the white noise of irrelevant job postings on platforms like LinkedIn by using filters to really focus and hone your search within specific parameters. So the example here, we have a clip of the LinkedIn search filter header, and these are just a couple of filters that you can use. You'll see on the far right there's all filters, and there are a lot more options that you can use, again, to narrow down your search, not just on LinkedIn, but on multiple platforms. And this is an area where you can really apply those needs, wants, and deal breakers, and specifically filter out roles based on things like location, salary level, benefits, and others. And I think location is a great example of this. Chances are you are already filtering your job search based on location. Whether you're looking to move somewhere new or stay in your current area, likely you have searched for jobs within that area. And so by extending this to beyond location, to things like salary or benefits, you can again really increase the efficiency of your search so that you are not looking at jobs that you would never apply to in the first place. So it saves you time, it makes your search more efficient, and it increases your odds of finding roles that align with what you want so that you'll not only find a job, but ultimately be happier in it and have that opportunity and room for growth in a place that aligns with your needs and values. So now that we've thought about needs, wants, and deal breakers and opening that space for personal reflection in the job search, really establishing yourself as a key agent in your own search, we can start to talk about the resume building blocks and how to build your resume with this in mind to ensure that it's seeing success both by human beings when reviewed by a recruiter and in the applicant tracking system. But before we start diving into factors like the applicant tracking system, let's just talk about what a resume is and what it's for. So the purpose of a resume is to communicate your strongest skills and accomplishments to show a company why you will add value to them and illustrate how you will be an asset. Essentially, it's a piece of marketing material, and you're the product being marketed. The resume does not have to be all-encompassing. It should not be a manifesto, and it should not be a grocery list of everything that you've ever done in every role that you've been in. Instead, it should have enough persuasive and informative content to win you an interview, when then you can then discuss your qualifications in greater detail. So this is really important to note, and this is an area that we see a lot of confusion around. It's natural to want to include all of the great accomplishments that you've had in your resume, but it's also important to make sure that you are curating the resume. It should be a select list of your latest and greatest wins that are most applicable to the roles that you're targeting. And with that said, for a traditional resume, the resume should not exceed 2 pages. In fact, we recommend 1 to 2 based on the amount of experience that you have. Typically, if you have under 10 years of experience, a 1-page resume should do the trick. Otherwise, a 2-page is acceptable, but you should never go beyond 2 pages. Some exceptions to this would be things like CVs or federal resumes, but 9 times out of 10, you want to make sure that you are keeping that resume to 2 pages, and again, utilizing that space wisely to show why you will be an asset, and again, really curate that list of accomplishments. Even beyond this, your resume can be a very powerful tool in constructing your own professional brand. Not only are you able to show the skills that you're most proud of, the accomplishments that you're most proud of, but the decisions that you make can help give the hiring manager an impression of your professionalism, your skill, and also your story, your work ethic, your leadership style, things of that nature. So think about how you want to establish yourself as a professional, and make sure that the choices that you're making on your resume with regard to language and formatting align with that. So now that we've gone over what exactly a resume is, let's talk about your audience. Who will be reading your resume? And here we have 4 key players here in the hiring process: supervisors, HR managers, talent acquisition specialists or recruiters, and then finally applicant tracking systems. And you'll notice that one of these things is not like the others. Supervisors, HR managers, recruiters, these are all human beings that have been hired to oversee hiring. They're people. And at the end of the day, just like you and I, they have their own implicit biases, their own implicit needs, and their own agendas in terms of what they're looking for the role. But outside of this is the applicant tracking system, which is just as, if not more important than the actual people overseeing the hiring process. So what is an applicant tracking system? Well, an applicant tracking system is an electronic database that stores resumes. Essentially, when you submit your resume online, chances are it's going to go straight to the applicant tracking system, which will house the resume until a hiring manager decides to search through it. So thinking about these roles that you are applying to, chances are these positions are getting hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. So as you can imagine, there is an incredibly high volume of resumes that a recruiter or hiring manager will have to sift through. This is where the ATS comes in. In the ATS, the recruiter or hiring manager can input key search terms to narrow down the candidate pool to only those that have resumes that contain those specific terms. It's a way for recruiters to narrow down their search. It's a great tool for them to increase the efficiency and find the people that they're looking for that have those select skills and qualifications. So the ATS parses through all of these resumes to find these key search terms that recruiters have input. But it doesn't just look for those search terms. It also looks for things like frequency, placement on the resume, boldness. For example, let's say a recruiter wants to search through their ATS for resumes that have the term account manager. A resume that has the term account manager 10 times will show up higher on the list than one that has it 2 times. So that's where frequency comes in. Similarly, placement on the resume. If you have a key term closer to the top of the resume as compared to the next person who might have it closer to the bottom of the resume, your resume will be valued higher and thus be more visible to the recruiter. So that is where the applicant tracking system comes in when it comes to keywords, when it comes to filtering, and again, narrowing down these candidate pools for recruiters. But they don't just search for key terms. They also search for things like location, education, certifications. Geofiltering is a great example of this. Let's say a position only wants candidates from a 50-mile radius. Well, they can use the ATS to do that. And similarly, when it comes to things like location, education, and certifications, we always recommend including them to ensure that your resume has that information if a hiring manager is looking to include that. Things like location as well, make sure that you're including at least a city, state, and zip code on the resume so that you can be sure that your resume is safe if they are in fact using a geofilter. All this to say, when you write your resume, you're not just writing for people. You're not just writing for the recruiter or the hiring manager or the HR manager. You're also writing for the applicant tracking system to ensure that by succeeding in the ATS, your resume will then be seen by one of these human components of the search. And so on that note, things like graphics and images are not a key to success. The applicant tracking system parses through these resumes to find those with the correct search terms or key terms on them. But things like graphics, images, and wonky formatting decisions can actually hinder the ATS's ability to do so. So even if you have the appropriate key terms on the resume, it might not be able to identify them because of these extenuating factors like graphics and images. So keep the resume clean, avoid graphics and images whenever possible, and make sure that the formatting decisions that you're making will not impede the ATS's ability to search through the content of your resume. That is really crucial. And so we see with the ATS a growing utilization of this kind of tool in various companies. We actually see, over the past 2 years that domestic Google searches for the term applicant tracking system have significantly increased, and we're expected to see that trend continue in 2021, and even more as new technologies and new brands of systems come out. As of now, 75% of recruiters and hiring professionals, have reported that they use an applicant tracking system. So with that said, it's all but guaranteed that your resume will encounter an ATS at some point in your job search. If you are sending out the recommended 8 to 10 job applications a day, again, your chances are far more than likely that your resume will enter one of these systems. And so with that in mind, you can ensure that you are doing what you can so that your resume, again, succeeds in these systems, that your resume will be seen by incorporating these key terms and by ensuring that your formatting is clean and professional. Finally, we see as many as 75% of qualified applicants are actually rejected by the ATS for reasons that might seem inconsequential or spurious, like formatting or the lack of the requisite search terms. So even if you are the perfect candidate for a role, if your resume does not include these key terms and does not line up with the ATS, your resume may never be seen. This sounds very scary, but the good news is now that you have this knowledge, now that you have the tools to strategize, your resume's performance in the ATS will increase significantly. By taking the time to look into these systems, to look into how to optimize your resume for these systems, you can stand out above those other candidates, not just in the ATS, but also in the hands of a hiring manager once your resume is ultimately viewed by them. So again, I encourage you to look into applicant tracking systems more. I also want to make it clear there's not one specific type of applicant tracking system. There are many different types on the market. Some companies also build their own internal applicant tracking systems. So there is no one specific type again, but broadly speaking, these rules apply and you can leverage them to increase your resume's views and increase your chances of getting reached out to for an interview. So now that we've talked about the ATS and how important these key terms are, let's actually break down what these key terms should be and where you can find them. So a key term is a phrase or business term that will likely be searched in the ATS to narrow down the candidate pool. Like we said, recruiters get such a high volume of resumes and they use the ATS as a search bar, right, to narrow down the resumes to those who have the specific terms in them. And these are actually found more often than not in the job description itself. Key terms have a lot of ambiguity surrounding them. There's a lot of kind of mystery in terms of what they are and how they function. And so it's helpful to think of them as almost a two-tiered model. There are two types of key terms at the broadest level, right? The first tier being key to the industry, role, and expected qualifications for a job title. The second tier being key to the individual position that you are applying to. So it's multifaceted. Key terms can be shared between roles. Sometimes they are specific to the exact position. And so by incorporating this and keeping this structure in mind, you can more efficiently build out your resume to make sure that you're incorporating all of those key terms and expected trends in language. And so to take a look at key terms and to work on identifying them further, we'll actually take a look at 3 job descriptions. And so these 3 job descriptions are all for the same job title. They are all for an account manager role, and they're all in the same industry. But there are 3 different job descriptions, 3 different companies, and what we'll be doing is taking a look at these 3 job descriptions and pulling out the key terms that we see in the descriptions themselves. And I won't read through every single line here, but as you can see here, we have the job description, key responsibilities at the top, requirements at the bottom, and then the list of keywords that we have pulled out of this job description on the right. And so just to start this, we'll start with the first bullet. Key responsibilities: proactively assess, clarify, and validate customer needs on an ongoing basis. So just from reading that bullet, something stands out as important. Customer needs. Even in seeing that, it's one of the first things that they want to bring to your attention as a responsibility of the role. It's a core part of the role. So we can infer that customer needs is going to be a key term for this position. Moving on to the second bullet, own overall client satisfaction and proactively identify relationship building opportunities. Here we see 2 more important terms. We have client satisfaction and relationship building. Again, these are terms that you can include on the resume that the job description has made it clear are important to the roles. So it's like an educated guessing game, right? Making sure that you're going through these job descriptions, seeing what's important, going through the requirements and the qualifications, and building out those lists. And so I'll leave you to take a look. Feel free to look through the job description and the other keywords, but we'll go ahead and move to the second job description that we'll be looking at. Again, also an account manager role, also in the same industry. And we'll do a similar thing where we will read through a couple of bullets and look for those key terms. And if you have any questions about these key terms, or if you'd like to see any of these materials specifically with listing out key terms, feel free to let me know. Again, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn, and feel free to follow Employment Boost on LinkedIn as well if you want to ask any more questions or reach out to us there. But moving on to that second job description, we'll start with the first bullet under responsibilities. Serve as the lead point of contact for all customer account management matters. So account management, again, this is an account manager role, but you can keep in mind, okay, they want account management. They need that. That's the first bullet. It's what they require. Let's add that to our key term list. Going on to the second bullet, building and maintaining strong, long-lasting client relationships. Again, we have relationship building, which we saw in our first job description as well. So we can go ahead and write down relationship building based on that. And then just moving forward again down those bullets, going through each one to identify those key words or key phrases that matter most to the role and that are key to the role. And you'll be able to continuously build out these lists of keywords for each position. So then finally, moving on to our last job description here. Again, just going through the various bullets, starting with the first bullet, generate new business revenue from the existing customer base, new business development there, develop a trusted advisor relationship with key accounts, again, more relationship building. And like I said, you'll really start to see these trends come through the more job descriptions that you look at. And we recommend building out these lists for each job description. Now, not every job description is going to be set up in the same manner. Some of them list out responsibilities, requirements, qualifications separately. Others don't. That is just dependent on how a company approaches their job requisition and hiring strategy. But don't be alarmed if it's not set up exactly the same way these examples have been. You can still go through each one to find those appropriate key terms. And like I said, once you've begun to identify these trends, the more job descriptions you create key terms lists for, you'll start noticing what's in common, what is required on a broad overall basis. And so here with our examples, from those lists we created 2 additional lists. A list of key terms that are shared by 2 out of 3 of the roles that we just looked at, and a list of key terms shared between all 3 roles. Again, these lists will only build as you continue to create them, as you continue to do your research and apply for more roles. And so as you do so, again, we encourage you to keep these lists and use them to your advantage so that you can build out your resume. These terms, these more trend-based terms, the trends in language and requirements, things like account management, communication skills, presentation skills, and relationship building, at least for this example, are the building blocks of your resume, and you can use those throughout the content as the foundation of your resume. So once you've established that foundation of the resume, using those trends in language and key terms that you found in your research, you can then start modifying your resume to include the role-specific buzzwords in each job description. So making sure that even after you've incorporated all of the trend-based key terms, the language there that you've seen, that you're still going back and adding all of those key terms from the role-specific list that you made to ensure that all of the terms are on the resume. The most successful candidates make adjustments to their resumes each and every time that they apply for a new posting. And we know that candidates who submit 8 to 10 carefully tailored resumes a day will generate significantly more results than those who submit the same resume to 50 or more job postings daily. Quality is key. It may sound like a lot of work, again, going in and making sure that you're changing it for each application that you submit, but you will make up so much time by being efficient in this process. It will make a difference. We strongly recommend making these changes, again, to ensure that you're including not just the first tier of key roles that are more trend-based and key overall, but also the second tier of keywords that are key to that specific posting that you know that hiring managers might search in their applicant tracking systems. So then finally, we'll move on to professional branding and establishing your online presence. So now that we've talked about the resume, about the ATS incorporating key terms and building your resume so that it shines out above the rest when you submit it, let's talk about making sure that your online brand is aligned with that and that what you're doing online can also help your chances of finding a role or getting the role that you're targeting. So let's talk about LinkedIn. What's in a network? As you expand your presence on LinkedIn, as you build your connections, you'll start to cultivate your own network of recruiters, hiring managers, current and former colleagues, and industry professionals. These are all people that you can connect with and engage with on LinkedIn on a daily basis. And it's really great to have those connections. So always make sure as you're on LinkedIn to look out for people that you want to add. Again, whether they be former colleagues or former managers, recruiters, hiring managers, people that work at companies that you're interested in, send out those invitations and build your network of connections. That can increase your chances of being referred to a role. We know that up to 85% of open jobs are actually filled through networking. As of 2017, 3.07% of new applicants for a position had been referred to a role, and referrals actually comprised 15.83% of new hires. So even though the percentage of applicants who had been referred to a role is low, they represent a very large portion of new hires overall. And we also know that new hires sourced through referral programs are over 3 times more likely than non-referred applicants to stay in a role for 3 years or longer. So there are a lot of benefits to being referred to a position. both shorter term in terms of actually being offered the role and longer term in terms of staying in a position and having career growth at the company that you will be referred to and eventually onboarded at. So using LinkedIn, by building your connections, you can again increase your chances of being referred through those relationships that you've built, both in person and online. And when it comes to LinkedIn etiquette, there are a few simple do's and don'ts that we recommend. So starting with our first do update your profile to align with the experience listed on your resume. After you have built out your resume with all of those key terms that you've found in your own research, be sure to update your LinkedIn profile accordingly. Show all of the companies that you've worked for that you've listed on your resume, include the experience and what you did, so that it matches up in terms of content. If there are glaring differences between your LinkedIn profile and your resume, that can raise a red flag in the eye of recruiters. So make sure that the content is similar and again, aligned across both pages, your LinkedIn and your resume. On the flip side, don't include too many quantifiable metrics about your job performance. Metrics can typically be saved for the resume itself. Adding too much information on LinkedIn until it's basically a carbon copy of your resume, especially when it comes to things like metrics or more sensitive information, can kind of take away from the resume's value as a whole. When you have those metrics on the resume, you're showing the recruiter what you've done exactly. You don't need to put that on your LinkedIn. Keep a little bit of mystery on the LinkedIn. Again, similarly to a resume, it should be a platform in which you can gain interest from people so that they then contact you for an interview. So you don't need to add everything on your LinkedIn, and certainly don't include too many quantifiable metrics or any sensitive information about your employer that they are not comfortable with sharing online. Do join professional groups relating to your industry and job function. This is a great way to build your network of connections, increase those referral opportunities, and also just stay up to date on what's going on in your industry and in your field. It's a great opportunity to do that. You can meet a lot of people, and you can also showcase your up-to-date, cutting edge knowledge on new developments in the field during interviews, which will only help you. Don't partake in debates or arguments in the comments section. So while LinkedIn is a social media platform, yes, it is a professional platform first and foremost. And especially if you're going to be using LinkedIn as a platform to further your career search and further your career, you should not be partaking in debates or arguments in the comments section, no matter how tempting it can be. Make sure that your behavior on LinkedIn aligns with how you would behave in an office setting. Make sure that you are always putting your best foot forward, and make sure to stay away from anything that could potentially shine a negative light on your professionalism. Another do give and ask for recommendations. This is a great way to expand your network and also add value to your profile already. Reach out to your colleagues, give them recommendations, and ask if they would be comfortable giving you a recommendation in return. You can both help each other out. It's a great way to, again, really expand your visibility and add some more information about your work ethic, your leadership, and praise on your LinkedIn profile. Don't post sensitive information about your job search if you are currently employed. If you are actively employed and you need to be discreet about your job search, make sure that you are being discreet on LinkedIn. If you are posting too much on LinkedIn about an active job search, your current employer could see this and this could become a problem. So just make sure that you are being discreet about what you're posting, again, dependent on your circumstances, and don't post too much sensitive information there. Our final do engage with posts on your dashboard. Give a post a like, comment on things. This is another way where you can really increase your visibility, increase your network, and just establish your own professional brand on LinkedIn and establish yourself as a leading professional in your field. So do be sure to engage with posts, again, commenting, likes, as you see fit. Then our final don't post or like not safe for work or inappropriate content. Again, just wanting to make sure that we are using LinkedIn in a professional manner. This is a place where recruiters could potentially source you for roles. This is a place where you will be communicating with managers and colleagues that you will potentially be working with in the future. Do not post or like anything that is out of line or not safe for work. Again, keeping things professional, even if it is a social media platform, make sure that you are behaving in a way that you are proud of and that you would behave in a professional setting. So finally, now that we've gone over some LinkedIn do's and don'ts, let's go over some final tips on how to increase your online visibility on LinkedIn. One of the first and best things that you can do is actually add up to 50 skills to your profile, focusing on the most applicable to the roles that you're targeting. So we recommend adding all 50 skills. This is a great way to really showcase what you've been able to do and incorporate those key terms. As you have become experts in key terms after making your lists for each role that you apply to, you can take those lists and plug them right in on LinkedIn. Again, the knowledge that you have about the trends in key terms and about the trends and requirements for the positions that you're targeting are going to be incredibly helpful here as well. So that's a great place to apply that. You can also upload a current professional headshot to increase your profile views. And so just to be clear, this does not need to be a professionally taken photograph. You can take this at home. You can take this on your phone. Just make sure that you are dressed professionally, that the area is well lit, that you have a professional background, and that it is in line, again, with the professional brand that you would like to put forward. So keeping things professional, keeping things above your shoulders, you can take that at home. And again, that can increase your profile views as well. You can also update your privacy and visibility settings, to align with your desired level of discretion in your search. So again, if you are actively employed but are starting a job search, you can update your privacy settings to make sure that people at your organization will not see any changes that you make to your profile, or any information about your desire to be hired, your hiring status, so on and so forth. So please check out those privacy settings. I encourage everybody to do so. Even if you don't necessarily need to be in a discrete search right now, there are a lot of great options there that you can play around with just in terms of your own comfort and privacy there. And then finally, you can connect with recruiters and hiring professionals at the organizations that you are interested in joining. And this is a great way to really kind of get your foot in the door. Feel free to send these recruiters and hiring professionals messages asking them about their advice for entering their organization, if they have any feedback or tips for you. And again, just continue to build your relationships and build your professional network. At the end of the day, it will be a huge asset to you. All right. Well, that is all I have for you today. Now we'll be taking some time to go over any questions that you may have. So feel free, if you do have a question, to let me know in the live chat. And again, I will answer to the best of my ability or get you into contact with somebody who can give you the information you need if I do not have that. So I look forward to hearing any questions, and thank you all so much for taking the time to join me today. It's been such a pleasure, and it's been great speaking with you. So thank you. All right, everybody. If there are no questions, we will be wrapping up today. But again, please do feel free to connect via LinkedIn or search our organization, Employment Boost. Our website is employmentboost.com. If you have any other questions or anything that you'd like to discuss in more detail following this webinar. Thank you all again so much for joining me, and I hope that everyone has a great rest of their day. Bye.